There was no time to consider my options in that moment because there was a human brain flying through the air. And either it was going to splat on my chest and bounce on the ground, or I was going to have to catch it. So there I am, with someone's brain between my palms. And I look up to see my middle school science class, my teacher, and my mom, smiling, the thrower of said brain. And I know what you're thinking, this is a nightmare, right? And it was, but only in the way that all of middle school is a nightmare. All I wanted desperately was to fit in. I wanted to be completely unidentifiable from everyone around me in the way that I dressed, in what I said, in the way that I acted, but also somehow uniquely desirable for friendship. And unfortunately, I was neither of those things. And the other things that I desperately wanted was a stay-at-home mom, or what I called a home mom. There she was, on all of these after-school TV ads, greeting her kids bounding off the bus with this amazing buffet of after-school snacks. And there she was at all of the during the day in elementary school, come to school and have tea with your kids or whatever activities that they had for parents. My mom didn't come to any of that stuff. My mom was a neuroscientist. She was busy. She had to maintain a lab and write grants and train PhD candidates and teach future doctors about neuroanatomy. But I didn't see any of that stuff. All I noticed was her absence. And I didn't really see her, I think, in the way that a lot of kids don't really see their parents. I didn't know that when she graduated high school in the 1960s, she dreamed of marrying an ambassador or a diplomat. Like the only way she was going to have an interesting life was to marry an interesting man. And of course she felt that way. She grew up the daughter of a prominent psychiatrist and his socialite wife, who was president of her women's club and entertained her husband's colleagues and their wives in their living room. She really flipped that script on its head. She earned her PhD from MIT and found her husband among her classmates. She was one of the first 500 members of the Society for Neuroscience that now has more than 36,000 members. And she became a full tenured professor while having 3 kids at home at a time when most women made the impossible choice between being scientists and being mothers, that she refused to make. And she also volunteered. So she brought, for Brain Health Week, these brain specimens in the classrooms. And that's why she was in my classroom that day. And in her recollection, she asked if anyone wanted to hold the brain, and no one said yes. And so she gently handed it to me. But there's no video recording of this, so I can't confirm nor deny her recollection or mine. She also stood in front of all the classrooms and asked the students what a scientist looks like. And all the kids would say the usual, old man, gray hair, until one student would say, you. And she'd smile and say, that's right. I'm what a scientist looks like. So I'm standing there holding this brain, and I'm feeling, well, number one, I'm feeling the brain. If you've never held a preserved human brain, it's kind of like, well, the smell is pretty awful, which you can imagine, the preservation chemicals, and they also chemically harden it. So it's kind of like this heavy, firm rubber. And I'm holding it, and I'm thinking 2 things at the same time. One is, I am just impossibly weird. Like, I was weird before, but there's absolutely no blending in and no fitting in after having your mom throw a brain at you and your mom bring a brain to your classroom, and my dream of being popular and fitting in is completely over. But I also felt something else, quiet at first. Like, this is pretty awe-inspiring to hold someone's brain. And it's pretty magical that my mom made this experience for me. Maybe my mom is pretty magical too. Fast forward, I'm sitting in my high school graduation in the dark, looking up at whatever speech was going on, and I feel this tap on my shoulder. And I turned to look, and it's this girl sitting next to me. You know this girl. She was effortlessly cool for our entire childhoods. And she probably had a home mom too. And I look over wondering what she wants, and I see her eyes are wide, and she has this reverent tone, like as she asks, "Your mom was the brain lady, wasn't she?" And I thought back to all of the years that had passed between those two moments. How I found my tribe in the high school debate team, how I had earned those two cords around my neck, one for National Honor Society and one for French National Honor Society, and how I was about to move away from Kansas City to attend my first choice university in Montreal and really go on a quest to figure out where I belong in every sense of the word. I thought about everything that my mother's generation had accomplished, so that young women could grow up and sure, be mothers, but maybe not be mothers and be any number of other things that they want to be. I thought about all that opportunity and promise that I was walking into at that moment. And I thought about everything that my mother was, both to me and to the world. And so I turned to the girl and just welled with pride and admiration as I said, "Yes, my mom was the brain lady. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Thank you."
Hey, Lily.
Yay.
Yay.
Love it, Lily.
Yeah, love it. You rocked it, Lily.
Lily, oh, that really was so what a wonderful story.